Yo, what's up? Welcome back to another episode of the Sauce. NFL Week 1 continues. We're off to a great start. Lions plus 4.5, under 53.5 on Thursday night. Let's keep it going. Announcement, if you're getting in on the Against the Spread contest, giving away a Keenan Allen helmet in week 1, I'm going to be giving something away every week. If you want in on that, you want to make your 4 picks, head over to Kirms.com. All the information's right there on the homepage. In this matchup, we're talking NFC East rivalry. We're talking Sunday Night Football, Cowboys at Giants at MetLife Stadium. Line opens up Giants plus 2.5 at home, but it's actually at 3 now. Total opens up at 46.5. Let's do it.
Welcome to the Sauce. The Sauce. Hey, get the sauce.
This line would get as high as 3.5, and actually was at 3.5 for most of this week. Friday morning finally drops down to 3. Public's coming in pretty split even on this one, maybe slightly leaning towards the Giants. I would imagine now that it dropped to 3, we'll start to see some Cowboys action coming in though. So heading into last season, the Giants' expectations were pretty much in the basement, as you know. They brought in Dable, head coach, Joe Shane at GM. It was a new regime, so there was hope, but as far as hope for last season specifically, there wasn't much. Entering last season, the Giants were 22-59 since 2017, tied for the worst record in the NFL, actually tied with their neighbors, the New York Jets. And we all know what happened. The Giants had a great season. They finished 9-7-1, won a playoff game. They were actually the most profitable team in the NFL betting-wise last year, finishing 14-5 against the spread, including playoffs. That being said, the Giants did have a lot of things fall their way last year. Not often do you see a playoff team with a negative point differential on the season. They also had a negative DVOA rating. They were 21st and 22nd in the league. Analytically, this was a bottom half football team last year. But I'm not just going to completely write the Giants off simply because these numbers tell me to. I mean, winning close games and finishing out fourth quarters, that's a skill set. 13 of the Giants' regular season games were decided by 8 points or less. That tied with 3 other teams, the Raiders, the Broncos, and the Falcons. Those other teams in those one-possession games went 4-9, 4-9, and 5-8. The Giants in those games, 8-4-1. So props to the Giants for taking care of business in those close games, but the chances of that happening again are definitely slim. Now, the main reason for the Giants' improvement last year is Daniel Jones. He had career best numbers in completion percentage, passing yards, interceptions, and he did all this while the Giants were rated 30th in adjusted games lost at wide receiver and dead last in explosive plays. That being said, his 2 games against Dallas last year were not his best. In fact, they were 2 of the worst games of the season for Daniel Jones. Just 56.9% completions, 5.9 yards per attempt is terrible, 72.9 passer rating. Cowboys sacked Daniel Jones a combined 8 times in those 2 games as well. Giants lost both of those games, and one of those L's was at the hands of Cooper Rush too. So Daniel Jones was great last year, but not against the Cowboys. In fact, Daniel Jones never really plays well against the Cowboys. He's 1-6 lifetime against Dallas, and the lone win came in Week 17, last game of the year back in January 2021 against the Andy Dalton Cowboys when both teams were eliminated. So Daniel Jones has never won a meaningful game against the Dallas Cowboys in his career. And this is a Cowboys defense that produced last year. Cowboys are top 10 in all of these stat categories, top 3 in most of them. DVOA, pass DVOA, rush DVOA, adjusted sack rate, pressure rate, adjusted line yards. And this Cowboys defense should be the same or even better than last year. One of the weaknesses of the Cowboys defense last year was that second corner spot. It was Anthony Brown for a while. It was Kelvin Joseph for a while. Well, now it's Steph Gilmore, former defensive player of the year, and people are talking like he's washed. What? He finished the season with an 81.1 coverage grade on PFF last year, 9th best corner in the league. He's only 32. This is an enormous upgrade for the Cowboys on defense. And it was needed, because I know I just rattled off some really nice looking numbers on the Cowboys defense from last season, but if you isolate it to just from week 14 on, Cowboys were actually just 24th against the pass. Pass rush stopped getting home, and the secondary really got exposed at the end of the season there. Another area of concern for the Cowboys defense was the interior, right? Stopping the run between the tackles specifically. They added Mozzie Smith, drafted him first round out of Michigan. So the Dallas defense was already good. I expect it to be even better this year. And if you match up the Cowboys defensive line against the Giants offensive line using last year's metrics, there's no comparison. It's one of the best defensive lines in the NFL against one of the worst offensive lines. Now, to be fair, I expect the Giants offensive line to be a bit better this year. It's basically the same unit as last year, except everyone's healthy, and they did add John Michael Schmitz in the draft. When you draft a center in the second round, that means you like him a lot. I don't expect the Giants' offensive line to be great, but it should 100% be better than last year. That being said, Dallas still has the huge advantage in this department. Now let's flip it over to the other side and talk Dak Prescott for a second. Those of you who watch me on YouTube know I've been very open about my opinion of Dak Prescott's contract. I think it's terrible. I think it's a liability. That being said, right now, after last season, I think Dak might be a bit undervalued. Everyone remembers that he led the league in interceptions last year. He threw 15 picks. I'm sure you've seen it on Twitter a billion times. But the previous 4 years, his interception rate was just 1.7%, which is very good. So if you look at the data spread out, last year was clearly an outlier. And whether you want to admit it or not, Dak Prescott got very unlucky with some of these picks last year. As you know, he had 15 interceptions, as I mentioned. But according to FTN, Dak Prescott had just 24 interception-worthy throws last year. That's tied for 12th best in the NFL. And despite the interceptions, Dak Prescott still finished the season 11th in DVOA and 12th in QBR. For reference, Davis Mills tied Dak Prescott in interceptions last year. He finished 30th and 32nd in those two categories. The Cowboys' offense as a whole is definitely going to look really similar personnel-wise to last season. Obviously, the injury status of Tyron Smith and Tyler Smith on the left side of that offensive line is huge. That's definitely information we're looking for. Last I heard, Tyron Smith was participating in light practice, while Tyler Smith still hasn't practiced. As far as offensive weapons go, Dalton Schultz is gone. He signed with the Houston Texans, but they like Jake Ferguson a lot. Then, of course, there's the Brandon Cooks signing, which confuses me a little, and I'll tell you why. So CeeDee Lamb was great last year. He had a great season, but he's a bit one-dimensional. When he lined up in the slot, a plus 24.2% DVOA. That would put him at the number 2 most effective wide receiver in the NFL. But when he lines up on the edge, he's got a negative 20.8% DVOA, which wouldn't even be in the top 100. So they bring in Brandon Cooks, another guy who's got way better production out of the slot. It doesn't make a ton of sense to me. Now, part of Brandon Cooks' numbers might be the fact that Davis Mills was throwing him the football, and maybe he just didn't have the arm talent to get it out to the edge. But still, he doesn't seem like the perfect fit personnel-wise. When it comes to the run game, I know everyone's big on Tony Pollard, and obviously I like Tony Pollard, but durability-wise, I have some questions. Cowboys running back coach Skip Pete said Tony Pollard said he was done in the Bears game, week 8. After just 30 plays, came up to him, said he's done, didn't play the rest of the game. And that seemed to be his max last year, about 30 plays. Now, this is week 1. He should be fine. That's really more a question for later in the season. And despite splitting carries with Ezekiel Elliott last year, Pollard still had 1077 yards and 12 touchdowns. In the 2 games he played where Zeke wasn't active, Pollard combined for 275 yards and 4 touchdowns, averaging an insane 6.8 yards per carry. Either way, the Cowboys offense may not be perfect, but if it stays healthy, they're going to be explosive this year. And they have a really favorable matchup to start the season against a Giants run defense that was flat out awful last year. I mean, as far as the defensive front goes, Giants finished 32nd in rushing DVOA, 30th in adjusted line yards, and 31st in opponents' yards per carry. Now, I expect the Giants' run defense to take a big step forward this year. I do. Dexter Lawrence and Leonard Williams both healthy on that defensive line. They also added Bobby Okereke. I'm almost positive I said that right. Bobby Okereke, linebacker from the Colts. He was rated the 12th best run-stopping linebacker in the NFL last year. So the Giants' run defense should be better. But it's week 1, and it's not like they're coming from 18th or 19th. They were 32nd last year, so it may take some time. As far as betting trends go, everything points to Dallas here. Since 2017, the Cowboys are 25-11 against the spread versus the NFC East and 5-1 against the spread in their last 6 trips to MetLife Stadium. So they've played very well on this field. The over is 7-3 in the last 10 Cowboys-Giants games. I don't think I want to touch the total in this game, but this matchup has been going over in recent years. As far as what I'm personally betting, maybe a bit on the square side, and I want to wait. I want to wait to hear about the left side of the Cowboys offensive line. I want to hear that injury news first. So I'm not making any final decisions yet, but I'm definitely leaning Dallas -3 right now. Love that it dropped down to 3. So let's put Dallas -3 on the screen for now. Make sure you tune into the live show Sunday morning, 11 a.m. when I make my final decision. If you want my top bets, parlay of the day, if you want to join the Discord, if you want to get in on the NFL against the spread giveaway, I'm giving away a Keenan Allen helmet, like I said earlier. Head over to KyleKirms.com. All the information's on the homepage right there. NFL Week 1, first football Sunday of the year. Let's have a great one. Let's have a fun day. Remember to bet responsibly, and I'll talk to you on Twitter.